Hi, this is Frank with a Frank Opinion. As some of you that have been following my videos know, I've been concentrating in the last three on the incredibly large and obscene income and wealth gap that we've had in this country, which accelerated from 1979 to this year, and where we saw a huge increase in corporate profits, corporate cash on hand, and yet wages have been flat. And I have indicated that I thought that that was the main reason why Americans, regardless of political persuasion, realized that both parties were letting them down, and therefore you had the results of November 8th. What I'm going to try to do today in the next two videos is giving you some backdrop, some information that you may not be aware of, that every American should know, a well-kept secret. Somehow very few people talk about this on air, regardless of the cable news station that you might be watching, etc. And I'm going to indicate something at the end which was very curious to me, which is actually somewhat humorous, that of all people, Dick Van Dyke, our beloved Dick Van Dyke, asked 3 or 4 newscasters on a cable TV show, have you ever heard of the Powell Memorandum? To which 3 of them flinched. I think it was 4. 3 of them flinched, and I believe it is Joan Walsh is the one that said, yes, I've heard of it. Well, here it is. The Powell Memorandum. The Powell Memorandum was written in 1971 at the behest of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. The author was Lewis F. Powell Jr., who was a board member of Philip Morris, the tobacco company, as well as an active member within the U.S. Chamber. And he was asked to write a memorandum, a strategic plan, because the U.S. Chamber felt that businesses were getting nowhere in terms of the climate that they were engaged in at that time. You had the Vietnam War raging and anti-war protests. You had environmental groups. You had consumer advocates such as Ralph Nader that were winning some battles in terms of the auto industry. And you had still the fear of communism, as well as an anti-New Deal atmosphere within the country. So Lewis F. Powell Jr. Wrote this, finished it August 23rd of 1971, and handed it to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. The title that he gave for the memorandum was Attack on the American Free Enterprise System. And he actually couched it, this in a very patriotic manner. For instance, and I'm reading from his memorandum, the threat to the enterprise system is not merely a matter of economics, it is also a threat to individual freedom. So this was a call to arms for corporate America to change what he basically said was a wussiness, an apathy in dealing with protecting their interests. And what he indicated was necessary was that there had to be a leading force, a coordinating force, a body that would galvanize corporate America, and he said the U.S. Chamber of Commerce would be the best choice. There had to be a plan that was long range and disciplined and strategic. It had to be an aggressive plan. And I'm going to read to you here a couple of quotes directly from his memorandum. There should be no hesitation to attack the Naders, as in Ralph Nader, the Marcuses, a famous professor at a college who was a leftist, and others who openly seek destruction of the system, the free enterprise system. There should be not the slightest hesitation to press vigorously in all political arenas for support of the free enterprise system, nor should there be reluctance to penalize politically those who oppose it. Let me read that line again. It's a very important line. Nor should there be any reluctance to penalize politically those who oppose it. Okay? Spend a lot of money, get rid of a politician that is against business, or spend a lot of money, get a politician who's in favor of corporate America into a position. Okay. And you had to spend major bucks. He said, if this is a long-range plan, if we're going to be successful, you got to pony up some dollars in order to make this successful. Lewis F. Powell, Jr., after writing this memorandum, was nominated to the Supreme Court in October by Richard Nixon and was confirmed on December 7th along with William Rehnquist, who became the Chief Judge of the Supreme Court. Both of them were approved on December 7th of 1971. Since Lewis F. Powell Jr. went on that court, the majority of decisions dealing with corporations, whether as a plaintiff or defendant, has basically gone in the way of corporations. What did Lewis Powell, in his, by the way, this is only 7 or 8 pages long, depending on the font size. He said, you have to deal with the campus. U.S. colleges and universities are basically havens for leftist thought. We have to begin to change that situation around, have equal time, look at their textbooks, look at their faculty, have think tanks, etc. And be able to change what he referred to as an off-kilter situation on behalf of a more leftist or progressive thought process, one to be more corporate and to the right. The media. You have to control the media. You have to influence the media big time. And he mentions paragraph after paragraph. TV, radio, the press. And of course, cable TV wasn't around at that time, or he would have mentioned cable news. The political arena. As before stated by him, nor should there be any reluctance to penalize politically those who oppose our objectives, our goals. Okay? You have to run your political officials, get them elected, or you have to remove politicians that don't go along with the corporate way. The regulators, he says very clearly in this, again, 7 or 8 pages, that you have to get kind of rid of regulators in government that are against corporate interest. I want to point out to you that we see, and let me see where I have my, pardon me, here I'm back. Scott Pruitt, new head of the EPA, who spent half of his governmental lifetime suing the EPA because of regulations that he thought were overextensive in terms of protecting water and wildlife and natural resources. And the courts. Now, let me get to the paragraph of all paragraphs in this document. And the byline here was neglected opportunity in the courts. And I'll read to you. Under our constitutional system, especially with an activist-minded Supreme Court, the judiciary may be the most important instrument for social, economic, and political change. Okay? So what do you have there? You have just these major results here, among many, many, many others, that most Americans don't know happen on a weekly, monthly, annual basis. 1976, Buckley versus Vallejo basically equates money with speech. The more money you throw on behalf of what you believe in is okay, because money is speech. Citizens United, famous, 2010, basically unleashing corporate dollars in our campaigns. McCutcheon versus the FEC, basically making it possible for wealthy individuals to again unleash gobs of money into the political process. Basically belittling the ability of ordinary citizens that don't have major dollars to be able to influence public policy on behalf of the public good. So we have the Powell Memorandum, and we have in 1971, and it took a little while to gear up, but you have a beginning acceleration of Supreme Court decisions, appellate court, etc., making decisions on behalf of corporations, and us losing in the process. This particular 7-page or 8-page, again depending on the font size, is so important that for the first 20 Facebook friends that I have that contact me either through a message or, if you know me personally, through an email or telephone call or a visit to my apartment. I will make a copy of this and send it to you. But the one thing here is that you can't keep it on your counter, on your kitchen table. You have to share this. You have to make it known to as many people as you possibly can that there was a strategic plan, I think one of the most brilliant that I've ever read, written in 1971, that basically has been used to the nth degree. Even if you understood the climate in which it was written, it has been taken way beyond what any 7 or 8 page corporate dominated philosophy and strategic plan could possibly hope for. And it's a bellwether in terms of where we are today. Okay? Some of you have asked me to recommend reading material. So besides this Attack on American Free Enterprise System by Lewis F. Powell Jr., who you probably never heard of, but now spread the word, I'm going to recommend to you highly this particular book, Corporations Are Not People, by a wonderful person by the name of Jeffrey D. Clements. It is must reading to learn about the history of corporate America, what corporations really are, how they're made, how they're sanctioned, which is really by government, okay, and how they can be an instrument for the public good. Thank you so much. Hope you listen in to the next two. Take care.